Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Miller with Littman Krooks. Thank you to attending lunch with Littman Krooks. I'm going to give it a couple minutes because I see some people's audios are still connecting. Just bear with us. Okay, looks, we've still got somebody connected. Okay.
Looks like Diane is on.
Yep, looks like everybody's now connected. I'll just ask everybody to mute themselves so that way we don't get any background or ambient noise. Welcome to Lunch with Littman Krooks. This is, we started this during the height of COVID, this Lunch with Littman Krooks. We were doing these weekly discussions and meetings and presentations about various topics. And we still are doing them, just not on a weekly basis anymore. We are recording this program, so you do not feel that you have to show your video if you don't want to show your video, because this will be recorded, and I believe we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel at some point in the future. If you want to come back and watch this again, or send it off to one of your friends or family members with information. Today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, so we thought it would be perfect to do a topic discussing financial elder abuse. We will be doing this presentation as a Q&A at some point. If you have any questions, raise your hand or even type it in the chat. I will try to monitor the chat box as we go along. If I do miss it or whatever, we will go back at the end. I'll scroll through to make sure we cover everybody's questions. My name is Brian Miller. I am an attorney here with Littman Krooks, handling primarily elder law, trust and estates, estate administration, special needs trusts, guardianships, and things of that nature. I do have an amazing guest with me today, Ilene Amiel. She is with a financial care manager with Personal Affairs Administrator, Inc. I will post a link to her website in the chat shortly. She is a member of the American Association of Daily Money Managers. She's a board member of the Estate Planning Council of Westchester County. I will let her go into further details about her qualifications and what she does for a living. Eileen, why don't you take it away, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the program with regard to financial elder abuse.
Well, first, I want to thank you for inviting me, because I love to share this information. I love to help people, and information is power, and I'm all about taking care of my clients and helping educate and protect them. My profession is called daily money management, and I've been working for myself for 8 years. I've been managing cash flow and money for over 25 years. I started out in corporate, managing ad budgets at large ad agencies, and then I started my own business 8 years ago, and it's called Daily Money Management. And there's an association, and there's about 700 people across the country. We're called Daily Money Managers, and we have a code of ethics that we all abide by. We're all background checked. So if you ever work with somebody and they say, you know, they could help you, have they been background checked? This is me starting with my tips right off the bat. I want to start giving you information so that you can protect yourself about elder abuse, because it is rampant and it's something that you can protect yourself against. So I love what I'm doing. I love helping people. And I was telling Brian when we first got on, I see fraud and elder abuse almost every single month. And so that's what we're here to talk to you about. And Brian and I both had people, we both share with each other, we have people in our lives, in our own families, that have been victims of elder abuse. And it happens so often. And there's so many people are ashamed. They're just embarrassed to tell people. and they feel like, oh, I'm not so smart, or how did this happen? But it happens so often that we're here to talk to you about it. So the purpose of today's talk is to raise awareness, give you education and tips and guidelines so you could prevent it and protect yourself. And I wanted to just frame the whole situation for you so you could get an idea of how serious it is. MetLife did a study, and they discovered that 2.9 billion annually is estimated to be lost by elder abuse from all types of fraud. And some experts characterize elder abuse as the crime of the 21st century. So think about Brooke Astor being a victim of elder abuse, financial and physical, and Andy Rooney losing all of his money to family members that took his assets away from him and neglected him. So that's what we're here to talk to you about, and that's where we're gonna start, and then get into details. And we really want you to ask any and all questions that you have. I'm on Zooms often, and I know that I have questions sometimes, and I feel a little uncomfortable. I don't want to raise my hand. I don't want to, but we're here to help you. So if you have any questions, you could put them in the chat, and we will answer any and all questions at the end.
And also, if you feel ashamed or embarrassed to even post to the chat, you can direct message in the chat to myself or Eileen, and we'd be more than happy to read that question without saying who asked that question, if you wanted that autonomy. But Eileen, I know you mentioned Brooke Astor and Andy Rooney, and these are celebrities. A lot of our clients aren't celebrities. So who is the typical victim of financial elder abuse?
Well, most victims are women aged 80 to 89 who live alone. And the people that commit the crimes are men from the ages of 30 to 59, and they commit 60% of the crimes. They did a study, and they said that the majority of the people that perpetrate these crimes, they are strangers, right? They're people that you don't know. However, in the absence of definitive research, they speculate that it's a result of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and gambling. And that's why people fraud and abuse other people. But also, it's family members and people that are close to the victims. And when they're involved, most of the cases find that people forge checks, they use other people's credit cards, they drain their bank accounts, they transfer assets. So these are the types of things that are done to other people by strangers, but also by family members and friends and aides and housekeepers and people that are very close to the clients.
Now, you as a financial care manager or daily money manager, I know you have more of a day-to-day contact with some of the clients than somebody like myself as an attorney, who they come into our office every once in a while for a checkup and to go over their documents and prepare their documents. But you have more of an intimate relation. Can you give us some examples of things that you may have seen in your travels as being a daily money manager or financial care manager?
Yeah, so most of my clients are women, almost all. They're either widowed or they're solo agers, and they might have been married and now their spouse might be in assisted living, or their spouse is in the home but they have Alzheimer's. And almost all of my clients are intelligent. Most of them have college degrees. They were competent in their lives. My clients range from 80 to 104. And before COVID, I almost exclusively saw my clients in person because I do provide in-home service. And I would see them every month. And usually the husband took care of the finances. They took care of the family, and it was just typical roles for that age group. And now that the husband has either passed away or they're incapacitated, they're in a nursing home, they have Alzheimer's. It's now up to them to take care of paying the bills, submitting bills to the medical for reimbursement, just taking care of everything related to finance, insurance, anything that involved money and caretaking for the family is now their responsibility. Some people never balanced a checkbook, never paid bills. Some of my clients have access to computers and some don't. So I go in as an advocate. I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at your whole situation. And I'm going to start, and I tell everybody to do this, get organized. Get a list of all the people in your life, your important contacts, and put it in one place. So all your family members and emergency contacts, as well as your attorney, your CPA, your financial advisor, all the people in your life in one document so you know where everything is. And then another document, where are all your bank accounts, credit cards, insurance policies? So when you need something, you're not running around looking for it. So when I'm meeting with clients, just on, coming in, going over their mail with them or getting them ready for tax prep for their CPA, that's when I see what goes on, because I'm in the weeds with my clients. I'm taking out their checkbooks and looking at where the money is going. I'm looking at the credit cards and seeing what they're buying. So I'll give you an example. I started with this one client. I'm going through her bank account and her credit card statement, and I see that she has Netflix. So I said, "Oh, what are you watching on Netflix?" And she said, "What's Netflix?" And I said, "Where you watch movies and shows." And she says, "Well, I don't have Netflix." I said, "Well, it's on your credit card." So she said, I don't remember setting up Netflix. So she has an iPad. We go on Netflix. I hit Netflix, and up comes the 5 people that are on her Netflix accounts: her aide, his wife, and their 3 children are all on her Netflix account. And she has no idea. And she's been, and I go onto the account and, she set it up or he set it up and she's been paying for it for 2 years. Little things like that, she didn't even know. And he's not with her any longer for many reasons.
Mhm.
But, people take advantage of my clients, and I see that. I see it regularly. I had a client in the city, a very prominent woman, and she had a granddaughter who she was supporting, an adult granddaughter. She was giving her $8,000 a month. You would think that would be enough for a 30-year-old woman to pay her bills. But as I began to come in every month and go over things, I noticed that there was charges on there for seamless delivery in New York City. And my client had a live-in aide, so she had somebody cooking for her, so she wasn't buying food. And it turned out the granddaughter had taken her credit card and was charging $300 a week on seamless ordering food. So I said to her, "Look, I'll get you your own credit card and I'll help you, but you have to stop using your grandmother's card." And it went on and on and on. And then I discovered she had a drug problem. She had a cocaine problem, and 8,000 wasn't enough for her. And I talked to her grandmother about it, and we tried and we tried. And her grandmother got sick and was in the hospital. And while she was in the hospital, the granddaughter went into the apartment and took off 2 Tate paintings that were on the wall and was going to sell them to get money. And that's where I called the attorney, who was the executor, and I brought it to his attention. And the grandmother was upset, and she didn't want to, call the police. But the executor said, "You could either return those Tate paintings, or that could be deducted out of your inheritance. But do not steal your grandmother's paintings off her walls."
Mhm.
So things like this happen. And if you have more awareness, you could stop it. So some of the things that are most well-known in terms of elder abuse scams is the grandma scam. And that's when you get a phone call, usually at night, and the person says, "Grandma, it's me." And they know your name. And you might have several grandchildren. So if they call you grandma, you might know. And what they're going to do is ask you for some money and tell you, please, please, please don't tell my parents because they'll get mad at me. And they tug at your heartstrings.
And often these calls come at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, to make it seem like it's an emergency.
Right. They're going to put me in jail. I can't get my car. They towed it. So what I'm suggesting is you flip it and you start asking them questions. What did you say your name was? Now they might have a lot of information because they could go on social media and look at your accounts and they could know a lot about you because this information is out there. But I'm suggesting that we become more suspicious. Brian, we talked about this. We don't want to be distrustful, but given that elder abuse is so rampant and there's so much fraud, and now what's going on with COVID, I think that it's better to be a little bit cautious and suspicious and ask them questions or say to them, "I can't talk to you right now. Let me call you back. What is your phone number?" You know, if they're calling you on a landline, get their phone number and then say, what did you say your name was again? One of the other scams on the phone are the lottery scams, where they say you just won a lottery. All you have to do is pay the tax, and this is where you're going to send the tax, or give me a credit card, or send me a debit card. So the
not to cut you off, but the lottery, while it's the phone, I've also seen it in writing. I've been in clients' houses. They come and it's color paper, beautiful, like watermarked paper. It looks legit, and I've had clients and they say, "Look, I've got this money coming to me. I just got to send them my social security number. And it has taken, even as a trusted professional, and I was their attorney and I was doing their estate planning, it took me a long time to convince them that no, this is a scam. Luckily for that client, I happened to be in their house. This was pre-COVID times where we were able to visit people in their house and do some house signings because they were bedbound, but they legit thought they were a lottery winner. And I said, well, when was the last time you were in Nigeria or wherever the country was? And so it's not just the telephone, but I've seen it in writing because people say, oh, well, send it to me in writing. Well, here they had it in writing. And as a professional, I looked at this, I said, this looks nice. I mean, it's very well done. It was more than just a piece of white sheet of paper with watermarks and everything. They are getting more and more crafty with their fraud. But so, yeah, so you get the telephone calls, but you also get sometimes follow up in writing. And then the other one that we see, and I'll let you go into, is the emails and texts as well.
Exactly.
Because there you don't have a voicemail. It is in writing because it's a text or an email. Do you come across any of that in your
I see this all the time. And here's the key. Do not pay attention to what is in the subject line, because that's where you'll believe it. Look at the return address. And if you look at the return address, especially at, what is on the other end of the, so it's Eileen Amiel at personalaffairs.administrator, right, .com, or Joe Smith at IBM, you know, look at what the ad is and see what that company is. Because if it was Apple, right, then it would be apple.com. If it was netflix.com, or if it was chase.com or visa.com. And that's where you'll be able to see if it's a fake email. So this happens all the time. I had a client, now it's about 3 months. I went in to check his bank account and I looked, and there were 3 Zelle payments to this person at a Gmail account. So I said to my client who had Alzheimer's, have you been, he used his computer often. So when we started working together, he paid all his bills, and I just was brought in because he said to me, I have Alzheimer's. It's really bad. I sit down to pay my bills, and 45 minutes later, I forgot what I was doing. I said, that's all right, we'll do it together. So I said to him, so, do you know Mary Jane at Gmail? Because I see that you sent her 3 Zelle payments. So he said, what is Zelle? I said, you don't use Zelle. It's an electronic way to pay people. He says, I've never used it. I don't know Mary Smith. I don't even know how to use it. So we called up Citibank. We filed a claim. We went to the police department. We filed a report. They told us to wait 45 days. And at the end of the 45 days, they said, we can't help you. So I'm very disappointed with Citibank at this point.
You were able to stop the payments going forward, no?
Nothing. We shut down the account.
But I'm saying you were able to stop, you shut down the account, you were able to stop further bleeding.
Further. We shut down the account. We moved everything. He had 2 accounts. He had another account at Chase. So now we have moved everything to Chase. And we even called Citibank back and said, we don't know, we don't have Zelle set up. How could this have happened? It's not set up. They won't help you. Now we set everything up at Chase, and I went to do a Zelle payment, and they had a double authentication process for Zelle. So right now I'm using Chase, and I'm very happy to see that Chase has double authentication. So if you go to do Zelle, you have to get a code. They have to confirm. They'll make sure that if you're sending somebody money from Zelle, you want to send money, and that the code that's attached to your account, for your phone number attached to your account, is attached. It couldn't have come from a third party. The other thing that I see on credit cards, if somebody's trying to scam you on your bank account, go back to the bank account, you might see just a penny or 5 cents. And that's them trying to see if you're going to notice. And as soon as you see that, you call the bank and you say, somebody's trying to do something. So that's one thing. With the credit cards, as soon as you see something on your credit card statement that's inaccurate or you don't recognize, you've got to call right away. You can't wait. You can't wait 3 months. So my experience with the credit cards is they will help you. I've had the best experience with American Express. They will immediately put the charge on hold. They will give you the credit. They will contact the other party, and that other party has to answer in 30 days. If that other party does not answer, they take that money right off of your account. So I'm really thrilled with the way American Express handles the clients, and I've been with them for more than 30 years. They've always taken care of me and all of my clients. So if you're debating, well, I don't know, American Express, they've been amazing always for me. And the other cards, they're okay, but I just put American Express in a different category in terms of the support that I get. Most people do like to have 2 credit cards because not everybody takes American Express. So you have the other one, but it's up to you to look at your statements every month and see if there's something on there that looks like it's not yours or you're overcharged.
Now, I know you say look at your statements every month, and sometimes we have clients that they're unable to look at their statements, or they have their children that may not live nearby that don't see the statements. They may live on the West Coast or something. How would somebody like you be able to assist them in making sure that they're not being taken advantage of?
Well, I work with a lot of powers of attorneys. So a lot of the adult children of my clients, they come to you, they get the power of attorney and all their advance directives done. And I work with them. They allow me to go online to their parents' accounts. There's documents that we fill out. They give me permission and we create accounts. I have errors and omissions liability insurance. I'm background checked and I have a bond. So I am a fiduciary and I have insurance. So I get written permission from my clients and they allow me to go onto their accounts, and I go into their accounts and I check them for them. So the people I see in person, I'm doing in person, and the people I work with remotely, I'm going in and checking their accounts and making sure there's nothing wrong going on. but
And
it
I
has
just,
to be on a regular basis.
and I just want to clarify for the audience, when you say you're a fiduciary, that means you have a legal obligation to act in your client's best interest. You cannot act in your best interest in any way. It's only what is in your client's best interest. I
Exactly.
just want to clarify that for the audience.
Right, being a fiduciary. And some financial advisors are fiduciaries and some are not. So when I start working with people and I say, well, are you happy with your financial advisor? And they go, well, I guess so. I said, well, what are you paying them? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't we find out? Because a lot of people don't realize that with their financial advisors, the fees are taken now out on a quarterly basis, the first day of every quarter on the first, every first of the quarter. So they're taken out 4 times a year in advance. So they'll be taken out January, and that covers their fee for January, February, and March, right? And then April for April, May, June. So most financial advisors are working for around 1%. I can't tell you how many times I've gone onto clients' accounts and seen a 0.75 or, a lot more than the average. But you never get a bill from your financial advisor. You don't know what you're paying them. The money comes right out of your account. And most people say, no, I never got a bill. Or people have said to me, oh, I don't pay them. Oh, yes, you do. You pay them quarterly. So the more you understand, then you'll know. If you used to pay somebody a 0.75 and they're not doing a lot of trading, they're not doing a lot of work on your account, and you think you could get a better rate, you can ask for a better rate. Though I see that a lot of clients, they're scared to ask how much things cost. 2 clients in the last 2 months went to the Verizon store and got iPhone 10s and 12s. Now, does an 80-year-old person need an iPhone 12? No, they go into the store and the person sells them the most expensive, complicated, phone that they could get. When I come in and I go, well, how's the phone working? Are you happy with that phone? And they go, I don't know how to use it. Well, we could get a Great Call. That's the name of this. There's a company called Great Call, now called Lively. And you could get a phone that's a flip phone or a smartphone for $35 a month and not pay $150 to Verizon for an iPhone or a Samsung. So it's another way that I know that my clients are being taken advantage of by service providers, by stores, selling them things they don't need, just to sell them the most expensive thing.
Yes, and I know we've talked a lot about these third parties, the outsiders, or even aides, which they're kind of a third party, but sometimes almost family members because they're in the house so often. But another thing we do see a lot of fraud, and you mentioned earlier on when you were speaking, is the own family members. Everybody's always afraid of that third person, that third party coming in, the outsider, the unknown. But we do see, I know I see it on my side, and I'm sure you see it on your side, is the grandchildren or the siblings or the children, or sometimes a cousin or something of that nature, somebody that is blood related. And so then their guard's down even more. Can you give us a little example of?
Yeah, for almost all my clients, I do the tax return prep. So a lot of my clients have large medical expenses, which can be deducted off of their taxes and then reduce their taxable income. So when I work with people, I want to find as much as I can to be able to deduct so they pay less taxes. So home health aides, all their medical equipment, all the doctor co-pays that Medicare whatever parts are not covering, all their out-of-pockets. And I will find all of these expenses that are deductible. So one of the questions when you go through, do you have any debts that will not be repaid? So I said to my client, does anybody owe you money that you don't expect to get back? And my client said, well, I lent my friend some money. So I said, well, how much money? And she said, $10,000. I said, oh, well, did you write anything? You know, did you make a promissory note or? And she said, no, I just gave it to her. I said, well, is she paying you back? Well, sometimes. So, well, what agreement did you make with her? She says, well, she was going to give me 1,000 a year. Well, my client's 80 years old. I don't know. How long ago did you do this? I don't remember. So I said, well, look, I really think we should talk to your attorney and have a promissory note prepared. And it was done in good faith, but you're not keeping track. And it was $10,000. And so things like that I see a lot. People lending money to family members without anything in writing. I also see people gifting money. And I have a client, a recent widow, and I was doing her tax return prep and we were going through her register and I saw many large sums of also Zelle payments. And I said, wow, that's a lot. And I took out my computer and an Excel sheet and I started adding it up and it came to $50,000. And I said, wow, did you realize you were gifting $50,000 in the last 6 months? And she says, was it really that much? And I just, I laid it all out and I said, that's a lot of money. And then I called the accountant and I said, does she do this every year? And she goes, she's never done this before. So I partner with all of the other professionals in the lives of my clients. That's one of the big things from my business. And I pride myself on working in collaboration with the attorneys, with the CPAs, with the financial advisors, so that when we're trying to help a client, we're doing things that are protecting them and whatever is in their best interest. So with this client, she always had a huge tax bill at the end of the year. And the accountant said to me, what is going on with her distributions? So I went on and I looked and I said, she's not having any of her taxes taken out of her distributions from her pension. That's why at the end of the year, she owes so much money. Well, we could go in and take the taxes out before she gets the money instead of every year owing 40 grand. So it's in the collaboration that we make good choices for the client, but also looking in the checkbook, calling the CPA and saying, is this normal? Or is she being coerced to give money by family members? And that's what it was. I mean, they were saying, Ma, I really need some money. Well, look, why don't we first look at the situation and make sure she has enough for herself before she gives you 50 grand? And she did, and it was okay. But we really did need to figure out what her tax situation was and what her debts were before she gives away money that she might owe herself.
Yeah, and I know you talked about being coerced or making gifts. I recall a case that we had not too long ago where it was actually a child stealing money, stole over $1 million from dad. Had dad's social security number, date of birth, knew his high school mascot, whatever you needed to log on to these accounts, and took well over $1 million from his dad. And dad didn't want to press charges because it's his son. But we were able to help in that we locked up we put a lot of his accounts into trusts. So that way we had a new tax ID number. The account was held in the trust of Bill Smith or whatever the client's name was. So that way only the trustee could access the accounts. And really make it harder for the son. So even though the son knew his social security number, knew his address, everything else, was unable to access those accounts later on. Have you come across any things when you're going through these documents or helping your clients where it's not necessarily, oh, I feel bad I'm making a gift, but a family member outright just stealing from their grandmother or their mother or whoever it may be?
Yeah, and I have seen it. I've also seen it with, and people think it's a no big deal. I had a client in the city who she had 4 people full-time, no, 3 people and 1 part-time taking care of her. She had one gentleman who used to work for her who was paid $1,000 a week to come in every day and sit and read the New York Times with her. The place was a hoarder's paradise. There were stacks of things all over the house. And when I came in, I said, do you want to clean this? There's a lot of documents here and a lot of papers. And he said, no, she just likes it like that. And this man was making $1,000 a week just sitting in her home with her, reading the New York Times with her. And her housekeeper, as I went through the bills, I found out that she put her housekeeper's daughter through college. And there are people that were around her that were just taking money, but in different ways, just asking her for help and then her giving it to them. And I just see a lot of this. I have one client whose son asked him to co-sign on a credit card, and then he didn't pay the credit card, and they were coming after my client. And it was a long time ago, maybe, 5 years ago. The credit card company was coming after my client with Alzheimer's. So I called an attorney and I said, what can I do? And I paid the attorney, and it was well worth it. He drafted a letter. He has Alzheimer's. He drafted a letter to the credit card company with the letter from the doctor with his diagnosis of Alzheimer's and the date that he has Alzheimer's. He's had it for 8 years, saying this person is 93. He has Alzheimer's. He co-signed, but he is not responsible for his son's debt. And they immediately stopped calling him, and no more correspondence asking him to be responsible for the debt that he co-signed for. And I was really happy about that because, we got the job done. And the son then filed for bankruptcy and had some personal problems, and then asked the client's wife for some money. And I said, and I understand bankruptcy. And I said, we can't give him that money while he's filing for bankruptcy. We have to wait. And so once you collaborate with a lawyer, with a CPA, once you get all the information, you could help your clients. So it's always good to just work with other people when you're trying to figure out a challenge for your client. And if you have to call the police, you file police reports, but you need to document different situations. And, the lawyers are always great. You guys have always been there to help me in all different situations where we don't want to go to the police, but we want family or friends to just stop what they're doing.
Yeah, sometimes just a sternly worded letter from an attorney can do wonders. Sometimes it does require more. Maybe it does require seeking a guardianship if your client doesn't have capacity, or updating your powers of attorney, updating your trusts and your estate planning documents to really protect the client. But then there are the other times where it's maybe not as adversarial, like you said, calling Citibank, where a client, and rightfully so, may not want to pay our hourly fees to sit on hold with Citibank as you press 1 and then press 4. Where people like you, that you're able to do that, and you're able to sit and hold their hands, and that is a team approach, a collaborative approach, where we could only go so far and then you jump in, or you could only go so far and they need the attorney to jump in.
Yeah, and sometimes I will say, this is going to take me a long time. I will call the power of attorney and say, for this, why don't you sit on the phone and do it? I don't want you to pay me to sit on the phone, because when you call these companies, you will sit on the phone for 20 minutes, 40 minutes. So, if I have to, I will do other work while I'm on hold, of course. But sometimes when I know it will be long, I'll give it to the POA to do. It's all about what's the most efficient way to get the job done for the client, and be sensitive to their needs. I see, there are a lot of chats. So
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I was going to say, we've scared this audience enough with some of these scams. And I was going to ask you, what are some of the solutions that you could think of, other than work with your attorney, work with yourself or somebody of your nature, that the audience can start acting on right now? And then I'll kind of read through the chat while you kind of give some solutions, and then I'll follow up.
I want to just mention one more thing.
Yes.
When you're hiring professionals, you have every right to ask all the questions you want to ask, right? Some people are like, oh, I don't want to ask them. I don't want to. You have every right to ask. I started being asked to be power of attorney. I work with a lot of solo agers. I speak on the topic of solo aging, and lately, the last year, several people have asked me to be their agent under power of attorney because they don't have any children, any family, anybody. And so I'm happy to do this, and I have the insurance. And I just started with a new client last week. And I said to them, I have E&O insurance, I have background check that. And we met. And the next time we met, they said, do you have a copy of your certificate of insurance? And I was like, yes, and I'd be happy to send it to you. And I was proud of them for asking me to see my certificate of insurance. And that's what I'm inviting everybody on this call to do. You meet people, what are your credentials? Do you, if you have a license, maybe I want to see a copy of a license. I want everything in writing. I find that people talk to different people. This happens so often. They give them an offer for something. They don't put it in writing. And then when it comes to paying for it, it's a different price. No, I thought you said that included this. No, it only includes this. Well, that'll be extra. Well, I misunderstood you. You talk to someone, get everything in writing, either in an email or printed. And when I go to buy something, I don't have to buy the most expensive. If someone's trying to sell me something, well, are there other options? Can I do it less expensively? So I want to empower the people on the call to ask and to stand up for themselves and not be scared or feel like they don't have a right to ask somebody these hard questions. Okay.
So I'm looking, we have a question here. How do you approach someone who has a lot of emotional clout, like a caregiver with an elderly man who's lonely and and you feel that that caregiver is really trying to extort money from this elderly man? How does the family deal with this when they see a man, presumably I'm going to call him dad, presumably dad, who's losing his connective function? The man thinks the woman's an angel, but the family feels otherwise. They know he's being extorted. How would you handle a situation?
Well, I've had this particularly with aides and housekeepers, and you can't go in there like gangbusters. So they usually bring me in, and people find me very approachable. I'm, very easy to talk to, and I go in, and once they understand why I'm there to help them, then I would go through the checkbooks and the credit cards and do a discovery. Really, let's find out the facts and then explain to them what the facts are. If they're paying somebody off the books, which happens a lot with these types of situations, they're paying them in cash or a check, I'll explain to them the consequences of not paying employer taxes and what can happen to them if they are found out to not be paying employer taxes and not having liability. You have to have liability insurance, workers' comp, if you have people working in your home. And you could get in a lot of trouble for not having it. If somebody falls and sues you while they're working for you, it could cost you a lot of money. So you have to be so careful because people get attached to their aides and to these people that they think are so nice. And until you could show the facts to the person, they're not going to believe you. So I think of Dragnet. I don't know how many people on the call remember Dragnet. The police guy would come and go, just the facts, ma'am. Just don't tell me a story, just give me the facts. So I see that you've paid this person this amount of money. What did they do for that amount of money? But you can't just come in. It takes time. One of my clients had somebody, she was there about 2 years. The woman was absolutely taking advantage of her. And it took me a while to get rid of this aide, a really long time. It was so manipulative in her language and how she was saying negative things about the other people to make herself look better. And it took time, and then we brought other people in, and she began to see the difference in quality of the newer people compared to, and the behavior and the manipulation in the conversation, that she finally realized that person was not such a good person. So you have to tread lightly and bring somebody like me in to just gather the facts. And yeah.
And that segues into my next question, because we got an emailed question similar, but this is more of a financial advisor that they feel is taking advantage and comes in with pre-printed graphs, doesn't give any statements. And like you said, it's showing them the facts. But sometimes even showing them the facts, taking time, doesn't always work. And sometimes I'll say, well, let's see what your estate planning documents are. Is there a power of attorney, an agent that we can talk to that can kind of step in? Has the client lost capacity? If they don't have capacity and there aren't set up estate planning documents, no power of attorney, things of that nature, maybe we need to move for guardianship over that person, so then somebody has the legal authority to go after the aide, to go after the financial advisor, bring a turnover proceeding if we feel that they've stolen money, to get that client's money back to the extent we can.
Right.
And again, sometimes we see it from our angle, sometimes they come to you, and it is the collaboration approach.
Right.
Everyone just getting a trusted professional that does this for a living, that does it day in and day out, that knows what to look for and how to proceed, either through the court system or through the legal system, or even contacting the district attorney's office if need be, or the attorney general's office. I know they have an elder abuse division as well in New York State.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, people just, they don't want to think that somebody's cheating them. Makes them feel bad. You know, my own mother was just a victim of fraud about 2 months ago. And I said, what happened? And she goes, they came on my iPad and it was so fast. And I couldn't believe $900. And I said, why didn't you call me? How could you not? This is what I do for a living. But she was embarrassed. And I think, I don't know, if we could get people to get past the uncomfortableness and being embarrassed and reach out for help. The financial advisors, there are all kinds of people out there charging all kinds of rates. And I see this a lot, and they probably think they're justified, because a lot of people will call their financial advisors or CPAs, they'll call them a lot. So when they're being overcharged, they go, oh, well, I call them a lot. Well, it doesn't work like that. They're being paid, and they need to document what their fees are if they're charging you for advice by the hour. They don't just send you a bill for $1,200 and say, you got a bunch of phone calls. I got a bill on Sunday at 3:00 from a colleague who I brought in to help a client. Sunday afternoon, I opened it, but it was for $3,000. And she said, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to put this through American Express. That was 12:00 on Sunday. I saw the client yesterday at 11:00 in the morning. I opened up her American Express bill, and there was the charge already on the American Express. I called up that person and I said, the client didn't review the bill. It's been less than 24 hours. Do not do that again. Do not put through your bill through American Express without me reviewing your bill. But people will do this. You give them your credit cards, they're going to use it. So I don't like to have bills paid from the service provider reaching into my account, taking money. People think, oh, I'll just go onto Amex and have them take it out of me. No, 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 no. I don't want to do that. I will pay American Express, I'll pay Con Ed, I'll pay Verizon from my bank to them, not the other way around. Because once you want to change the service, it's very difficult to get it back unless you have all the information. So I have clients that have Alzheimer's that set things up and it's all online. And now that they've lost capacity, I can't find all the information. It's hard about where their accounts are because it's already in the computer. So it's taken we had to have the POA sent to various companies to first get the POA authorized to even talk to those companies. So if you have control of where you're sending payments, it's better than having the companies reach into your account and take the money out.
And I've got one more question here, and this is regard to a mother's being a victim of elder abuse at the hands of her sister. And this client says that their attorney is looking for a guardianship over the mother to stop the threat. And he had suggested that maybe they, as part of the guardianship, get an expert on elder abuse to show the sister's behavior matches the typologies of behavior. In guardianships, I don't know if that would necessarily be necessary, because the question is whether or not mom has the mental capacity and whether she's aware of the downfalls of her actions. And I'm drawing a blank now as to the exact terminology, but it's really not about the sister's abuse, but really what is mom aware of, and does she know the negative ramifications of her actions? But then they said, do you have any advice or know of any type of elder abuse experts? And I could think of maybe like a licensed social worker, something of that nature, that sees the elder abuse. I don't know if you've come across anything like that in your travels.
I don't, when a guardian, I haven't been involved in guardianship because it's really
That's
difficult.
my realm. That's my realm. I was just, I don't know of any elder abuse experts per se, and normally we wouldn't, because we wouldn't bring them in a guardianship, and I don't want to second guess any other attorney's work, and I don't know all the facts and details of this matter. I was just reading the question.
You have to, yeah, it's really just sticking to the facts of what was done on what date, by who, to whom.
Yes.
And then presenting that to the lawyer or the guardian to deal with it in the courts.
Yes.
I don't know that I want to answer.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to fully answer that as well. I just didn't know if you had come across anything other than what I've seen in the legal world. Before we let you go, I just want to make sure, does anybody else have any questions? Please type them in the chat box. I did post Eileen Amiel's website on there. It's got her email on her website. It's got her telephone number to contact her. We work in these financial elder abuse areas from the legal side, from the daily money management side, and we have other people that we do work with. Like Eileen mentioned, we work with the CPAs, the financial advisors. We work against them when we feel that they're doing something bad, and maybe bring in a second CPA or financial advisor. And just, and I know Eileen's a big proponent of this, is look at where you get your referrals from. Are you getting a referral from your financial advisor, from your attorney? Are you getting a referral from Mo down at the bar? Mo may know really good attorneys down at the bar, or good financial advisors, but just think about where that comes from. So Eileen, I'll let you, I mean, any closing remarks? We're coming up on the end of now.
It's funny you would say that, because sometimes when I would come across another professional that I was not impressed with, I would say, oh, so where did you get this person? And it would be, oh, my hairdresser recommended them. So who is qualified to judge the abilities of the profession, right? So if you're going to ask me for a referral, I'm a good judge of a CPA because I went to business school. So I could judge a bit. I work with attorneys, right? If you're hiring a care manager is a good person to ask for referrals to doctors, to therapists, to physical therapists, right? Anything medical, psychological, a geriatric care manager can make those referrals. So it's like, who are you asking for a recommendation from, and are they qualified to assess somebody else's professional abilities, right? So is a hairdresser qualified to assess the qualifications of a CPA, a financial advisor, an attorney, right? They might be smart and a good hairdresser, but are they qualified to refer somebody to you? So yeah, and then when you do hire somebody, ask them for references. Can I speak to 3 of your clients? Or if I refer an attorney, which I love to refer Brian, I need to refer 3 people. I can't just say, I know Brian's the best. I have to say, Brian's really great. And here are 2 other people also, and they could say, well, what are the differences between these 3 people? Well, one's at a big firm, one's at a small firm, one's a solopreneur, right? But always when you're asking for referrals, get it from, look at the source and then ask for a few referrals and ask for references. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I wholeheartedly agree. And as well, I try to give 2 or 3 referrals as well. And I'll tell Eileen, hey, I'm making a referral, I gave your name, but I'm also giving a couple other people's numbers, because last thing you want to do is feel forced into a relationship with an attorney, a daily money manager, CPA. You want to be educated, ask them those tough questions that Eileen mentioned earlier, so that way you do make a good and educated decision. And once you have those people in your corner, you can rely on them for referrals to the geriatric care manager, to whatever other profession is, and you are building your team that's going to protect you or protect your loved one from financial elder abuse, because everybody has your best interest at heart. And I see we've come up on the end of the hour. We try not to make these run too long. I don't have any other questions. I do want to thank Eileen for coming on and being an amazing, amazing guest. Very, very highly recommended. If you or a loved one needs somebody of Eileen's services, need somebody to dig through the weeds, go through the bank statements, organize your affairs or your parents' affairs, please do not hesitate to reach out to Eileen. We will be posting this lecture on our YouTube page. I think it usually takes about a week. So you got logged in late, or you want to pass this along to your friend or loved one, or rewatch it later on, it will be there for you. It's on Littman Krooks. You can find out about more of our upcoming lectures on our website, littmankrooks.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll let you know when we have further presentations. Eileen, thank you again for being here, and I look forward to answering anybody other's questions. You have our website. You can find my email, bmiller@littmankrooks. If you want to schedule a consultation with us to discuss your details further, we'd be happy to schedule a consultation, and I'm sure Eileen as well. So thank you, Eileen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you the next time we have a lunch with Littman Krooks. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.